We don't need to pay the Africans for the cobalt. We don't need to pay the Africans for the copper, the uranium, the titanium, the coltan in the Democratic Republic of Congo. No, we don't want to pay them for the gold. We don't want to pay them for the diamonds. We want to get it all for free. And if free means dead Africans, then that's all right. We now are witnessing two deep state factions fight each other. So Hillary Clinton was the head of one of those deep state factions. Now, the one that she was the sort of, not the head of, but I mean the public face of one, and John McCain and Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio, all of these people, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, they're all public faces of one particular faction of the deep state.
So they're all part of the same faction, all those individuals you just named.
Yes. And so, but you see, it's the process. And I exposed it when I complained that I had to sign this pledge to Israel, which I said, okay, I'm not going to sign it because I need to get elected first. And I need to understand the issues, and I need to understand what the U.S. interest is. Then I, will talk to you guys. Well, that was not the answer that normal people give. And okay, so the empire builders, according to Catherine Austin Fitts, don't care anything about the U.S. And I would have to agree with her, because these are the people who want war against Russia, war with Iran, war in Syria, all these wars. And if it destroys the United States of America, then, so be it. We'll just move on to our next target. And so, it's so easy to make silly mistakes. And I will say that, I made some mistakes, and it's easy to make those mistakes when you're fighting the swamp. So you need to have people who are experienced at fighting the swamp if you really want to drain the swamp. You got to know where the plug is. And so anyway, these are my observations as well that correlate well with the theory. So you've got these two deep state factions that are fighting. There's not enough positions to award to them because there's only so many presidents. There's only so many ambassadorships. There's only so many of these positions. And so I believe what happened was, quite frankly, the pilgrims, those are the ones that say, well, wait a minute, we need to protect the United States. If we go to war against Russia, we could be defeated. We could be nuked. And, the United States is done with. So let's try and figure this out in a rational manner. Well, one thing that marks the Ziocons is their pursuit of their goals no matter what. And so they appear sometimes to be irrational because very little deters them from their goal. And so if you look at what's happening now, the U.S. military has been used to destroy whole countries. U.S. foreign policy apparatus is used to balkanize countries. I mean, even if you look at Yugoslavia, what happened in Yugoslavia. Now, Yugoslavia is the country that got wiped off the map. Israel has no intentions of being wiped off the map, and Israel has very powerful allies. And the ones that are not allies, they're temporary coalitional powers. So it's a coalition that's not like an alliance, a lasting alliance. So Israel is in pretty good shape. And those countries that have been targeted are the Muslim countries that have been targeted for complete destruction, are the Muslim majority countries. But anyway, that's a geostrategic thing that's going on. And we're talking about the deep state. Now, so you've got this at one point, I think the members of the deep state were quite united in, okay, we'll let you go along with this. The Pilgrims and the Ziocons were united in the war game because the Pilgrims were getting money from the war machine, and the Ziocons were getting their geostrategic goals for Israel. They were getting those goals accomplished. So there was harmony, but it was when the Ziocons went too far, which is, and we're not going to stop with Iran. We're going to keep going. We're going to get to Russia. And if we can't co-opt China, we're going to get to China too. And this is what we're going to do. Then that's when the bifurcation started, the split began, and in earnest. And so then we got the possibility for Trump to erupt through this mess that has been created. What used to be solid working class, middle class towns where men could support their families and work with dignity is gone now. And we can thank NAFTA for that. Of course, I'm from Georgia, and I saw firsthand what happened in Georgia with the textile industry. But then when the war began to bump up against real enemies, not pushover enemies that could be literally wiped off the map, like a Sudan or a Libya or Iraq. But now, Somalia, let me not forget Somalia, you can take over whole countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, you can bomb them with impunity, so we can take them over. Yeah, that's all right, but then we're gonna split Pakistan into several different countries, and we're going to split Syria, we're going to split Iraq, and we're going to literally wipe them off the map. This is the objective to which U.S. military forces are being applied. So anyway, so now you've got these two deep state factions. They're fighting each other for ascendancy, and Trump becomes the public face of what we think is one of those factions. And that's the faction that I call the Pilgrims. Those are the ones who say we're not going to sacrifice the U.S. And then all of a sudden, Trump does an about face, and we can't explain why. Well, he's basically surrounded by the Israel firsters, the Ziocons. He's surrounded by the Ziocons. And so what amazes me is that you've got these people who are inciting the people of the United States to hate Muslims, but Muslims don't control the Federal Reserve. Muslims aren't the ones who are orchestrating all of this, not from what I saw from inside. People need to check. They need to do their homework. They don't need to be pulled emotionally into the first hate group that you can find. No. Just as methodically as the U.S. has been depleted, we need to look at the experience of other countries around the world that have suffered the same fate. For example, the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union fell and Russia and became Russia, who were those oligarchs? If you know who those oligarchs are, then you can understand what one faction of the deep state has in store for the U.S.